Hey everyone, I am going to read from The Divided Twin by Mary Billiter and Kyle Thomas. 1. David and me. A photo of 3 girls wearing nothing more than silver ski jackets, furry boots, and smiles while huddled beside me in an ice bar surfaced on my laptop. I leaned forward and the tip of my baseball cap tapped the touchscreen, bringing the image into greater focus. A blonde, a brunette, and a redhead, the trifecta of hot, cleaved to me for warmth like an alcoholic clung to their bottle. Damn, I looked good. Not that I should be surprised. David always looked out for me. He was the only one who told me that. With my beard and messy hair, my style was on point. Hell yeah. I skimmed the comments on my Instagram page and grinned. Pimp. Just hoes and tricks, man. Hashtag ice bar bitches. I scanned the other pics on my page, each one showing me with a different girl in a different city. I kept my account private from prying eyes that wouldn't understand, like my mom. If she knew what I did with her tuition checks, she'd lose her shit. But let's get real. When I followed David's suggestions, I was the life of the party. Besides, he wouldn't have my ear so much if my family wasn't so pathetic. I cracked my neck and a loud pop followed. My health teacher in high school always told me that cracking my neck or any joint was bad for my body, but fuck that, it relieved pressure. I mean, why wouldn't you do something that feels good? Agreed. I opened a Word document, cracked my knuckles, and let David direct my thoughts. A killer's journal. This journal will comprise the thoughts, feelings, and actions taken by an individual who has had killer tendencies. The individual has never killed or seriously harmed anyone before, but has the natural instincts to do so. This journal is meant to be left anonymous and to be used for research purposes only. I was about to continue when the tip of her tail brushed my elbow. Bonita. I stroked her neck and down the length of her muscular body. Her almond-shaped eyes closed and purring ensued. Yeah, I know. Her long legs lingered along the edge of my chair, and then, with one graceful hop, she situated herself on my desk, beside my laptop. Bonita, I have work to do. When her large ears pointed up and her strikingly blue eyes peered at me from behind the chocolate mask that covered her face, I was putty in her paws. That's the only reason I took you home. I didn't even know what a Siamese cat was. But Bonita reminded me of someone I once knew. What I didn't expect was that a cat craved more attention and affection than my identical twin brother, which I didn't think was humanly possible. Okay, let me get back to work. The beauty about Bonita was that she didn't speak. First time an animal opens their jaw and starts to talk, they're as good as gone. Agreed. I returned my attention to the screen and resumed typing. I feel like most people don't remember the moment or times of insanity. I, however, recall every excruciating minute and feeling of those times of loss of sanity and judgment. It all started with the abuse of my family. I've discovered through all my college readings that many theorists will tell you, or rather theorize, that tracing the subject's history to their past will find the answer to a majority of mental health issues. Abuse, whether mental, physical, or sexual, often leads to some sort of problem in the future. I have never been sexually abused, but I have been physically abused and witnessed physical abuse, which theorists believe leads to mental abuse as well. I don't remember all of the times my dad hurt my mom, but I do remember one certain instance. Bonita purred and her tail swayed, which sent fur in the air that I knew would instantly stick to my black shirt. I was forever picking Bonita hair off my clothes. I brushed my sleeve. Stupid fucking cat. And just as quickly as Bonita had appeared, she left. I returned my focus to my computer entry. My brother and I were in our rooms listening to the lovely night conversations of our parents. It was typical chatter with yelling, screaming, and the occasional punches. After a little while, we went to investigate to make sure Dad hadn't gone too far. We went downstairs after hearing Mom and Dad in the room having a discussion. We patiently waited for the chatter to die down, but all we could hear was the increase in our father's voice. Shortly afterward, our pregnant mother came out of the room with our father close behind. While my mom made her way down the stairs, our father came behind her and gave her a rather sturdy push, which sent my pregnant mom tumbling down the staircase. But it wasn't like a light fall. My mom's pregnant belly made her top heavy, so she flipped head over heels a few times before she caught her balance, if she really ever did. My brother got hit by my dad for interfering and telling my old man to stop, and I was forced to watch. I remember locking eyes with my mom and realizing how hopeless our lives were as she bled from her lower body. It wasn't like a gush of blood, but my mom held her stomach as if she could stop the slow trickle of blood that stained the carpet and her hands. No matter how much she tried to save the life seeping out of her, she couldn't. I ran to the neighbor's house to get help, but as I rang the doorbell and beat my knuckles against the door, no one answered. No one came, except my father. He picked me up like a sack of trash he had forgotten and took me home. I remember that I was not full of fear during those moments, but rather curiosity of what it would feel like to inflict pain on others. Was it joyful? Fun even? I believe I was 5 at the time when these questions bothered my every waking moment, and I wanted to explore this understanding. I leaned back until I teetered on the hind legs of the chair and rocked while I stared at the screen. I knew what came next. Fuck, it was my story, but I wasn't sure I was ready to reveal it. But David's voice in my head was too loud to ignore. Get a grip. This is child's play. Hearing voices wasn't anything new to me or my family. For that matter, neither was schizophrenia or schizoaffective disorder, which dropped a dose of depression into the equation. All it took was one past event to taint my family on the downside of the disease. And I guess, in some respect, I understood. I wasn't a fan of Trevor, a command hallucination that fucked with all of us. Tick-tock, my ass. Trevor was gone. His days of ticking and talking anyone's clock were through. We all made sure of that. That was why no one knew about David. No one knew because David was different. I was sure that was what every schizo claimed, but David was different. He wasn't like Trevor, and he never would be. But to be clear, David wasn't some alternate personality like in the movie Split. It pissed me off when people got schizophrenia or schizoaffective mixed up with dissociative identity disorder. Even when I first suspected I may be schizophrenic or then learned about schizoaffective, I was never stupid enough to think my disease was like having multiple personalities. Idiots. Agreed. And don't even get me started on the depression. I could handle all the other shit if I didn't get so bummed out. I could be watching anime and suddenly start to tear up. How fucked up is that? Very fucked up. I glanced behind me. Where's the cat? Dunno. Anyway, when I heard David, it was like having a conversation with myself. I wasn't taking on the role of some new identity or different character. Schizo was messed up on its own without adding multiple personalities into the mix. But just like most things, people attach themselves to one word like hallucination and automatically associated schizophrenia with split personalities when the two couldn't be more different. Someone with DID had a complete alternate personality, but with schizophrenia, it could be a visual or auditory hallucination. I didn't see shit, but I did hear David. It was like hearing myself, but instead of talking to myself out loud, because who did that, I talked to David. That was what I called the voice when I first started hearing it, because it just made sense to give him a name. Again, David wasn't my other personality or some alternate identity. He was just a voice in my head that I couldn't ignore, and I didn't want to. Everyone has a voice in their head. Mine was just a little louder. David had always helped me see things differently, and as usual, he was right. This journal and what it revealed was child's play. Harmless. Besides, no matter what David thought I should write, I knew it was nothing more than a journal that no one would ever read, so I let him finish his thoughts. A year or two passed. I remember seeing a bird's nest outside of our house. The bird's chirping sounded pleasant to anyone else, but to me it was painful and irritating. I grabbed a rake and proceeded to knock down the nest and watch as the baby birds frantically scurried in hopes of returning to the shelter of the mother. I watched for 30 minutes until the last of the babies stopped squirming. This action did not bring me joy, hate, sadness, or anything a normal person might feel while watching something die. Instead, I felt excitement. To me, the witnessing of something dying was rush and brought me adrenaline in a world that seemed so boring. This was the first time I killed, and sadly, would not be the last. 2. Branson. 22 to base. The black handheld walkie-talkie looked like something my twin brother Aaron and I had when we were little and played spy games. "This is base. Go ahead," my boss Jackson responded. "I've got a possible code 10. I tucked my baseball cap over my ears, but it didn't stop the wind from piercing my earlobes, which were numb. I stomped my feet on the snow-covered asphalt to keep them from freezing, but it only kicked up the white stuff. I knocked the snow off my boots against the tire of the silver Honda Accord and glanced at the information on my portable parking device. It contained the past history of university parking citations. The permit on the Accord's windshield was expired, and better yet, when I pulled up the car's history, there were 8 unpaid citations. Give them the boot. "Can you state the license plate number?" Jackson always followed protocol. "It's a Wyoming bucking bronco plate, 2-1867, I said into the mic. My teeth practically shattered. "It's too fucking cold out here." "Please hold." I took a step away in case the owner exited the football game early and headed toward his car. No reason for unnecessary confrontation. When it snowed last night, I thought for sure the game would be cancelled, but leave it to Wyoming State University to clear the field for the game day. Nothing mattered more to the university than keeping their top rank in the Mountain West Conference. Jackson's voice broke through the frigid air. "Base to 22? That's an affirmative code 10. What's your location?" My heart raced. This was as exciting as it got for a college parking officer. "Stadium parking lot, north side." I couldn't help but be pumped. Hell yeah, this guy's got it coming. Add another $60 to his unpaid citation and another point for me in the office parking pool. The more tickets I wrote, the closer I got to the monthly bonus, which meant an extra $100 in my wallet. I didn't know who the poor bastard was who would get the boot, but it didn't take a lot of common sense to pay your tickets or park legally. I had at least 10 minutes until Jackson arrived from the parking office with a boot that I'd attached to the rim of the tire. No driving with that chunk of metal. The north side of the stadium was full of cars decorated with our Wyoming State University bumper stickers. Snow didn't even stick to the glossy decals. "Wyoming Strong" in red lettering against a solid black background looked like blood from a fresh cut. The more I stared at the rows upon rows of glowing red letters, the more my adrenaline spiked. I may only be a part-time parking officer, but the authority I had gave me the power to ruin someone's day. And if I had to work in the butt cold, then I wasn't going to be alone in my misery. A buttery yellow convertible bug with a light sprinkling of snow on its top looked prime for the picking. I checked the lower right side of their windshield and noticed they weren't displaying a permit. I pulled out my portable parking system and typed in their plate information. Personal plates. They were always lame and stupid. I sounded out the vanity plates. QTE. Cutie? The person driving this car was probably the opposite of their plates. The parking system showed they had no history, which meant only a warning. Shit. I hit print, and the portable printer slung across my shoulder spit out a parking warning that I tucked on the windshield wiper. The Wyoming State vehicle that Jackson drove could be heard a block away. It was old and in need of repair, just like the campus. The only improvements the college ever made was to the athletics department. I could have run track, but I didn't want the added stress of training and trying to graduate. These 4 years seemed to fly by. I still couldn't believe I was a college senior and was actually on course to graduate on time. Maybe I was, like Aaron claimed, the eighth wonder of the world.